you've been participating in one of the most fundamental explorations in human existence, period. Our physical self is making all the judgment calls, and your soul is left. It's almost like with the crumbs, if you will. Everything you learn about the truth about who you are demands that you release a belief or an aspect of yourself that's not in alignment with the truth. There's no such thing as weakness. They're yet to be explored opportunities. Welcome back to the Authentic Human Podcast. I'm Michelle Vickers. This is part 38 of the story of creation. Let's see what the universal beings have in store for us today. So it's really interesting. Today we've got a lot of different universal beings. So it's a lot of different energies, but there's a lot of them. So there's not one that's coming forward. So basically what happens, what this means is they're communicating as a collective. So this means that there's, well, millions, not, I was going to say hundreds of thousands, but there's not. There's millions of universal beings present today, and they all are sharing a similar message. And the reason that it alone is important is recognizing a little bit actually about what we were talking about in part 38 or 37 rather, but about the collective of being, we're all one. But it's understanding they're going to give you a demonstration of what that actually means today when universal beings participate. Okay. So when we communicate together, so basically what happens is, how I hear it is, so when I first started communicating about 20 years ago, it was awkward when all of them would show up. And so at that point, we worked together and we found a solution that worked for both of us, that they would have a spokesperson, a soul, sort of speak, that would share the messages of the collective. And so it's evolved over the years as my ability to communicate has evolved. And so today I can handle millions of beings speaking as one, which is actually really cool. I haven't seen that before. So thank you. So ultimately, humanity is in a new state of being. Now, what's important to understand is the original intention of human existence was based on original existence itself. So it was based on the concepts of matter, the concepts of magnetism, and so many others, right? Cellular construction, but there's, without all the scientific terms, it was ultimately, human existence is based on the foundations of existence, okay? But now we're coming into a time where humanity is ready for more. Why is that? And how did that come to be? Because we have billions of years in our past, right, in our experience of being in full consciousness, but in vibration with our original intention, okay? And so what has occurred and what is occurring is ultimately manipulation came into effect in the last 50,000 years, okay? We're using time and space just so your brain has some concept of the distance and the distance from your origins, but also understanding the significance of the impact. So this isn't just been going on for a couple hundred years or a couple thousand years. This is over 50,000 years. And that's really fundamental and important for you to understand. And so Right now, what's actually occurring is this is the greatest shift in humanity, yes, but why? You need to understand why. You need to understand how this is happening, okay? And so what they're sharing is we've gone from original intention to mass manipulation and control to now raising vibration through restored consciousness. However, we won't be the same as the original intention because we can't go backwards. We are created to evolve, and we have evolved. We just haven't applied what we've learned to evolution. Okay. And what they mean by that is the last 50,000 years have been an exploration in themselves. You chose every life to come here to experience the pain, the trauma, the hardships, the suffering alongside the nine universal energies, right? Truth, love, joy, purity. If you want to learn more about those, I highly suggest you get yourself a copy of Believe. Um, but ultimately, right now, we're taking the wisdom and knowledge that we have learned from the last 50,000 years. Okay. I know it doesn't often feel like learning when you're suffering and when you're uncomfortable. Okay. But the reality is, not only have you been learning, you've been participating in one of the most fundamental explorations in human existence, period. Okay. And so as you progress, okay, over the next few months, few weeks, few years, what they want to share with you today are the important things, the important notes that you need to carry in your awareness, okay, so that you can allow this change to occur. Because what's happening more significantly than anything else is our physical attributes, our physical representation, our physical self is making all the judgment calls. And your soul is left, it's almost like with the crumbs, if you will. Okay. So your soul, who is you, okay, it's your representation of your soul if you choose to follow and feel the energy. Otherwise, you're a representation of the person that you've been taught to be. And these are all of the beliefs and ideals and ideas that reside within your mental capacity. And so, what they're sharing is in order for you, as a member of humanity, okay, in order for you to become who you're meant to be, and this is really important because who you're meant to be is in alignment with your soul. Okay. It's in alignment with why you as a soul chose to come into not only this life, but every life you've chosen to live within those 50,000 years, but also since the beginning of existence, billions of years ago. And this is the part where your brain is screaming a little bit, resisting this concept because your brain is like, well, where do I get that information? How do I know? How can I prove this? How can I learn? And so, again, our brains have been trained, if you will, to learn on a physical level. But that's not how humans learn. Okay? Humans learn. We learn from feeling. We learn from connecting with energy that is, it's universal wisdom. Okay? So every energy in existence, your soul included, has a unique frequency and vibration. Okay. And every interaction that you have with another being, or with universal energy, or with just simply energy, different energies, right? Most are universal at this point. So any interaction you have ever is not only been recorded, but it's time stamped, if you will, universally, even though time and space doesn't exist, right? The universe records information based on events. And your events are a reflection of the experiences that you have had that bring you closer to the fulfillment of your own existence. We're not meant to, it's the way they're showing me, it's we're not meant to attain the actual goal. There is no one specific goal. It's not like we're going from A to Z and we're going to get there. It's recognition that every single experience you have is what's taking you closer to the goal. Okay? It is the goal. It's actually the fruition of the goal. Every time you explore your potential, so you're trying something new, you're pushing your boundaries, you're experiencing something that hasn't been done before, you're fulfilling your purpose. Okay? What's important at this point in evolution is understanding exactly what that means. And what that means on a universal level, okay, and a soul level, is you're reclaiming recognition of self. It's really uncomfortable. The process itself is so uncomfortable because it defies every aspect of your human self. And so everything you learn about the truth about who you are demands that you release a belief or an aspect of yourself that's not in alignment with the truth of who you are and who you were created to be. This is why, really, this is why this year feels so uncomfortable. But it's also understanding that right now, currently, okay, you not only signed up for this, you chose to participate in a way that allows humanity to, it's like flow, like they're showing me a natural water slide of like rocks and water. You chose this experience so you can contribute to humanity flowing into a new existence. Okay, we've had, for the last 50 years, people have been talking about the new earth and the new world, and this is nothing new, but it is understanding that in order to create a new world, we must bridge our original intention with what we've learned along the way, right? That's what makes anyone become an expert. Doesn't matter what field you're in, it doesn't matter what experiences you're having. It's understanding that experts, okay, are willing to participate in life in a different way. They understand their origins, they respect them, and they also respect the truth of who they're meant to be. And they are able to merge those two to create change on a regular basis. This foundation is what is currently being integrated into human existence. It's why everything is extremely uncomfortable, okay? Because here's the thing, without control and manipulation, not one single person would ever procrastinate. Not one single person would ever have pity for themselves or anyone else. Not one single person would be judgmental or angry or fearful. Why? Because those energies are based on the control and manipulation. They're not based on the true origins of your own existence. They're not. And so what you're doing is you're coming back to that place where human existence can thrive. But you have to be willing to create it. And you can't create it based on your fears and your lack of existence and the experiences that you want to have. Okay? It's understanding that in order for you to create the future, for you to become who you're meant to be, which is an explorer of consciousness and a participator in evolution, right? You're contributing to evolution. Evolution is the pinnacle, it's the reward, because that's where fulfillment lies. Why is that where fulfillment lies? Because your whole being craves a challenge to who you be every single day. It's why you get restless and you get frustrated, you get annoyed when things are not flowing, but also when there seems to be too many things to do. Because you know, it's not about how many things on your to-do list. It's an inner knowing that all of these things are not actually taking you closer to your potential. They're keeping you busy and they're keeping you away from your potential. Okay? And so your job right now as a human being is to begin recognizing your true self. Your job is to allow the purity of your soul to come through, to step into, it's like stepping into the light, right? Out of the darkness and into the light. I know that those are often spiritual phrases, but if you imagine yourself literally standing in shadows, and then you just shift your position into the light. And what that means is, you know, understanding that you don't want to hide anymore, because hiding from others isn't productive. But ultimately, it's the recognition that you're resisting and stopping hiding from yourself. This is 2025 is the year of respect. And respect is the year of self-recognition. And that's why you have to stop hiding from yourself. That's why every experience that you're having right now, it feels like it's pressure. It's like the gas pedal is down, and it's unrelenting. It's staying down whether you want it to or not. Because at the end of the day, you're meant to reclaim the wisdom of your soul, the wisdom of the universe. Those are yours. You just have to remember how to do it. They're not foreign. You've just forgotten because of all the other stuff that's in the way. And that's the whole point right now. Self-recognition, right? Respect is self-recognition. Self-recognition is understanding and recognizing that your fears don't exist unless you feed them. Whereas your truth and your compassion and your love and your purity and your balance and your movement, they all exist, whether you focus on them or not, because they're a part of who you are. Just like what your interest is, the things that you could do. Maybe it's just one thing, maybe it's 10 things, maybe it's 50, it doesn't matter. But the things that you could do for hours with zero discontent are the things you're meant to be doing. And your job is to let go of all the fears and all the reasons you can't do it, and allow yourself to discover why you're meant to be doing it. Right? It's just like this work. Do you know, when I first started communicating, people were like, oh, that's a gift. You have to, give it away for free. Other things they said was, you can't do that as a real job. And, you do it as a part-time. Or here's the reality. The universe made darn sure that it wasn't a part-time gig, because it's who I am. But I had to figure it out. I had to walk the path. I had to follow the journey that allowed me to accept that truth, right? whether it was judgment from others, whether it was beliefs in myself, right? Every time someone judged me, I would second guess myself. Not anymore. I know this is what I'm meant to be doing. And I've known that for at least 15 years. And the reality is, I know I'm helping changing lives because I'm changing your perspective of who you believe you are. Okay. And so it doesn't matter what your passion is. Could be art, could be science, could be anything. It doesn't matter. Musician, mechanic, a teacher. It doesn't matter. It's recognizing that the thing that makes you brilliant is the thing that you can do when no one's watching and it brings you joy. Okay. How do you know it brings you joy? Because literally you can do it for hours and get lost in it. You don't even know it's happening. That is not something you do extracurricularly. It is the thing you're meant to be doing in your life. Okay. And yet, we live in a world that is based on the foundation of financial recognition. So your job is not to fight that. Your job is to allow yourself to recognize how to align with financial recognition while doing what you're meant to be doing. Okay? It doesn't matter what your financial goals are. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You can have any financial goal you want, but you have to recognize that you need to be comfortable with your financial goal. So if there's a lot of people out there who are like, I just want millions of dollars. I just want to be comfortable. But they are not actually comfortable even saying the words, let alone feeling the energy and receiving. And what you're meant to be doing and understanding is recognizing that when you participate on a soul level at a fair market rate, and what they mean by fair is competitive, you know, not lowballing. You don't lowball. You're financially, it should be a reflection of your level of participation. Okay. And this is where our workforce, okay, people who work for other people who have jobs, particularly at minimum wage, there's not a balance there, but there's a reason. There's a reason for that. It's because you've chosen a path to follow someone else's dream, to fulfill, maybe it's a chain of restaurants you work for, but you're the person's dream that was that restaurant, that's their dream. Okay. Here's the thing. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have those jobs. What it means is use the wisdom you're gaining wisely while you're there. Knowing and recognizing that everything you're learning is going to become a part of how you become what you're doing in the world. And it doesn't matter. Okay, here's the other side. It's very similar to your evolution of self and your awakening to the wisdom of your soul, right? The more you awaken, the more you're going to receive abundance and exchange abundance with the universe, right? Because awakening and opening to wisdom it's a process. And I always think about it, as if I'm sort of hovering over myself and I look down and there's a circle around myself. And that's my wisdom circle. And every time I learn something new, my wisdom circle grows a little bit more. So it's like I have a bigger reach out into the universe of existence. And so every experience I have, just like every job we have, we're creating more awareness. We're creating more awareness of self, and we're creating more awareness of who we're meant to be in the world. Okay. And so what you're being asked to do this year is to pay attention to what you're learning about yourself, right? We've been inundated, absolutely, from every from every which way, every direction, to second guess ourselves, to look outside of ourselves for our value and our worth. We've also been trained to forget the truth. Really, it's that simple. We've been trained to forget the truth of who you are. And so what you're doing is you're collecting the information and evidence, if you will, that can allow you to become so comfortable, right? Comfort is a recognition. It's like a relaxed state of being with that's been triggered by wisdom. Okay. And so what they're sharing is, as you collect this information and becoming more aware of who you are and what you're meant to be doing, it allows you to apply that wisdom in all areas of your life, including if you want to, and should you choose to, offer something as your own business, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And so what they mean and what they're sharing and what they really want you to fundamentally understand is, in order for you to become successful, and success is fulfillment as a soul. That's the only thing we're craving, fulfillment. Okay. When you achieve fulfillment, it's a result of self-recognition. Okay. And so right now, what you want to be doing is allowing those truths to surface, to come to the surface in your day-to-day experiences. And when you see them, don't go into that place of disregarding or overthinking them. Just allow them to be there and move on. And allow the next one to come up, and the next one, and the next one. Because there are millions, just like there's millions of beings here today with you. They're all here, recognizing your strengths, your goals, your potentials. There's no such thing as weakness. Weakness is a reflection of what has not yet been explored, either because it's not of interest to you or you haven't gotten to it yet. But it's not a bad thing, right? That's just a human belief. You've got weaknesses you've got to work on. They're not weaknesses. They're yet to be explored opportunities. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm very excited to see you guys in part 39. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this episode, like and share it with anyone you think that would benefit. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
The other day, my business partner said to me, "You have to stop talking about energy and the universe around my wife because she thinks you're a witch."
Lovely.
And I'm not prepared to do that.
No, we can't change who we be anymore. We can't
No.
make someone else comfortable,
Comfortable.
because
No.
that's not what this is all about, right? It's about recognition that we have to be who we are, and we can't stop anymore because somebody else is like, no. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to learn more, head on over to michellevickers.com. Join our mailing list to receive new episodes right to your inbox, or apply to be a guest on the show. If this episode made you think of someone while you were listening, forward the link onto that person with a little note about why it made you think of them, because the greatest gift you can give another human is to see the beauty and purity of who they truly are. Until next time, stay curious.